What is up, Ravens flock? Huge shout out for your support for the 410 Sports Talk. James and Glenn are the best in the business. They're killing it right now. They love talking Raven talk. Make sure you go subscribe to their channel. Let's go Ravens. Big trust.
Welcome everyone to another episode of 410 Sports Talk. I'm Glenn Martin here with my co-host James Haskell. In this episode, we're going to discuss a certain contract extension that I think comes as no surprise, but certainly still have to make the announcement. But before we get into that, give us a like, hit the subscribe button, and of course, click the notification bell so we can keep you up to date on all your Ravens news. But Jimbo, who got a little paycheck and a little contract extension?
Yeah, and to preface this, of course, we're not talking about a player. This ain't a Lamar Jackson contract, guys, so keep holding your breath.
Unfortunately not, yeah.
But we are talking about a guy that Lamar Jackson holds very near and dear to his heart, and that is one John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh has been awarded, ladies and gentlemen, not given, awarded. I use that word operatively and purposefully, a 3-year extension. So 4 years in total now, 4 additional years that John is contractually obligated to coach the Ravens. Unless they decide to fire him, and they're contractually obligated to pay him, within that time period as well. So John Harbaugh's here to stay for another 3 years, in addition to the 1 year he had, so 4 more years. So can we give a round of applause to John Harbaugh?
Yeah, shout out to John. He's not going anywhere. And I think that the players are happy about that. The players, on his team, and I think the majority of fans are excited about that. And I think the big reason why is the incredible success he's had since he's taken over. So I just kind of want to go through a little bit of what he's done since he's been here, and talk about why he got this extension, which we're so excited about. So some of his accomplishments are
really quickly, Glenn, remind people because I think you're doing this for a reason. What's about to happen.
Oh, I'm sure there's going to be those detractors of John Harbaugh that are going to come out and say he should be gone.
Right. So remind the folks, Glenn.
Yeah, let me just remind everyone what John Harbaugh has done. So he's obviously the winningest coach in this franchise's history. He has a 607 win percentage, which ranks 6th among all active coaches. He's got 9 playoff berths since 2008, which is the 3rd most. Obviously, he was the coach of the year in 2019 and a Super Bowl champion. But that's not how it ends. He's also got the most road playoff wins of any head coach in the history of the league, ahead of Tom Landry, who is 2nd. Also, under Harbaugh, Baltimore is one of 4 teams to earn a playoff berth in 9 of the last 14 years, which is something that obviously not everyone can say. He's led the Ravens to 4 AFC North championships. He's got 11 playoff. The Ravens have 11 playoff wins since 2008, which is when he took over, which is 2nd most in the league, behind only New England at 16. The guy has just been a really a model of consistency. He's the C. Look, a lot of teams are going out. They're trying to find your offensive guru, your defensive guru, your guy that calls the plays on either side of the ball. But what a lot of times they miss out on is that you need a leader. You need a man who can control a room of other men, and a lot of those men making a lot more than him are bigger and stronger than him, and yet he has to gain and command their respect. And I don't know if you can find a coach who's better at doing that than John Harbaugh. So
yeah, you're 100% right, Glenn. And one of the things I think is interesting is that John, he comes across, he comes at it genuinely because he's learned from his own mistakes, right? Like John, it's well recorded. And if you watch, I forgot what the name of the documentary is, but you talk about the situations that John was in with some of the older guys when he came in. He's a young coach. He wants to establish his culture and do all these things. And he starts butting heads with some guys, right? And like people forget that John had so I just learned a new phrase. I think it's really cool. The emotional agility to adapt to that scenario in a positive way. And then that same emotional agility to grow into the coach he is today with a totally different cast of players And he really does that every single year. I think as a leader of men, just like you mentioned, John Harbaugh is a tone setter. Like I loved in his presser, he said, we're not scared of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you think John Harbaugh is going to coach a team to be nervous or to bow down or to be deferential to anyone? No.
Mm-mm.
Right. You think he's going to, I mean, John Harbaugh is, and, you know, we've talked about this before, but I think he's a top 3 coach in the NFL. I just think he is. I think it's hard to it would be hard to count John out of that list. So I'm happy for his extension. You mentioned all the things that he's done in the past, and I think there's still a lot more in his future. I think, honestly, he's at the prime, from a trajectory standpoint, he's at a prime stage as far as, you know, he came in late. He's a mature coach, but he's not too set in his ways to not listen to his players.
Yeah.
And
well,
I think it's very impressive. We
his
saw
flexibility,
in the video, right?
Well, I mean, I think we saw his flexibility when he went from Joe Flacco to Lamar Jackson, and didn't just do so. You know, he didn't just kind of beat around the bush about it. He went all in on Lamar Jackson and the skill set that Lamar brings. And I don't think that should go unnoticed. You know, people act like that was, you know, no big deal. But no, I think you'd be hard pressed to find another team willing to go that all in on a quarterback with the unique skill set that Lamar has. And I mean, just look at the combine before he was before he was drafted. A lot of the coaches didn't even see him as a quarterback, and yet not only did John see him as that, but he built the team and the entire organization around his unique set of skills, and ultimately it led to Lamar being voted unanimous MVP. And also, you know, they are on the cutting edge when it comes to analytics and kind of meshing the analytics and the old school way of doing football together. That way you're not behind the curve. You're not playing catch up. And instead you're ahead of the game. And so obviously, you know, I think that, you know, deserves some applause too. But I know what everyone's going to say. And I think we're having some issues trying to pull up a kind of a.
Oh, I got it.
Okay. Because I know what a lot of people are going to say. They're going to try and hang the 6-game slide to end the season last year around the neck of John Harbaugh. And I think that this graph is a great way of kind of showing exactly how impacted the Ravens were. So while I'm not exactly sure, you know, the intricacies of what WAR means, the wins above replacement, but I think that,
well, you know what it means, but like the statistical analysis that goes into it, right? Like
exactly how that all goes. But if you just look at this graph is a way to try and show not just the number of injuries, but the quality of those injuries and how much how irreplaceable a lot of those guys were on the field by simply just, you know, grabbing a guy who's available on the street. You know, how much of a play, you know, was dropped off by losing that guy. And as you can see, if you look in the very top right-hand corner, the Ravens were not just the most injured, but they were the most injured as far as the quality of the player. They lost their most. Help me explain this, Jimbo.
Yeah. So it wasn't about volume, but it was also about impact, right? Like that's what this measures, is because volume is one thing. So I'll give a perfect example. Look at the Tennessee Titans. Look where the Tennessee Titans sit. And everyone talked about, oh, Vrabel should be the coach of the year. They had the most, you know, players signed to, you know, in and out of the roster, the most volatility of their roster. Okay, but let's talk about impact, right? Because what you'll see here with the Ravens is we have the highest impact and we have the highest, I mean, and we're standard deviation. We're standard deviation and a half to the closest team. We're more than them in adjusted games lost. Yep. Right. Due to injury. And then we're very high. I mean, we're still higher even in the WAR category to the Saints. So in every way you slice it, it's not comparable to a Titan situation, to really anyone else last year. And to be able to navigate that is incredible. Another note here, if you look at this graph that you can learn, look at the teams in the top right-hand quadrant. So Ravens didn't make the playoffs. Saints didn't make the playoffs. The football team didn't make the playoffs. Obviously, the Jets obviously didn't make the playoffs. The Colts didn't make the playoffs. You got 2 teams in there. The Cardinals are barely in that quadrant. And the Niners are, I mean, soundly in it, but once again, we are 1, 2, 3, 4 standard deviations away from the Niners in both WAR and adjusted games lost. Like either way you slice it. So it's just incredible to me that John. And then one more thing: look where the Bengals are. They're in the bottom left
Chiefs,
quadrant,
the
which is where
Rams.
you want to be. Right. I mean, look at those teams right there. Other than the Texans and the Falcons, but a lot of those teams down there are playoff teams, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And so, point being, John Harbaugh navigated all of that. And yeah, we had a 6-game slide, but we didn't have 6 blowouts.
Right. Lost 5 of them by, I think, a total of like 6 points.
Yeah, we were in games. I mean, we were in really close games with, I think it's fair to say, Glenn, a skeleton crew.
No doubt.
So, look, shout out to the coach and the coaching staff and the players, of course. They got to do it on the field. But this video is about John Harbaugh. I think he had a lot to do with that, guys.
No doubt. And really, the Lamar injury was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. And they were, before that last final, an injury that was just too tough to overcome, being Lamar, they were the number 1 seed in the AFC with all the other injuries.
And it's so funny it's so funny because you call it the straw to break the camel's back. But to me, it's funny because another team, 30 teams out of 32 teams in the NFL, 30 teams, that would be the one and only straw. They use their quarterback, they lose their quarterback, and that's it. We had already, like you said, we'd already lost so much.
Yep.
And we were still afloat and not just surviving. We were like you said, we were the number 1 seed. And of course, like you said, Lamar goes down. That's a tough one. But this graph it's powerful. And like you said, it speaks to the impact that the coach can have on a team's preparation week to week, the depth of a team, the coaching of the new guys, the young guys, and the 3 and 4 the third and fourth string guys in their positions.
Yeah, no doubt. So excited. Want to see what John can do with getting some of his guys back and getting some healthy. It's like weird. I don't even want to bring that up because I don't want to jinx us. Let me knock on some wood. But it will be nice to see John and what the Ravens can do with a full healthy roster. So we'll certainly be hoping that they can get through this offseason and, of course, training camp and get to the season and see what they can do. But let us know what you guys think. Were you excited to hear the announcement of John Harbaugh's 3-year extension? Were you disappointed? If so, please leave us a reason why. We'll talk soon.
See you.